So this is a quick video on the 2% inflation target that central banks have. So there's always it's always said that by economists, monetary specialists, that you want a positive rate of inflation. I want to show exactly how this is complete BS, whether they know it or not. There is zero reason to print money. Well, I'll get to that. The reason they say that you want positive inflation is because they fear that if you have a rate of inflation that is at zero, that you could easily slip into deflation. And kind of a corollary of that is that you have to keep printing money so that you don't have deflation, and printing money gives you a positive rate of inflation. But as I indicated a while ago, I want to point out that all of this is BS. You do not need to print money, and you do not need to worry about deflation if you are not printing money. See my prior video on deflation. Deflation is not falling prices. Two different things. Falling prices come from an increase in production, an increase in supply that makes prices go slowly lower each year, as they used to for decades in this country until the central bank came along. By the way, you had problems during that time, but not because of anything except the banking system, which is what I'm focused on here. That all of the monetary problems we have originate from the banking system, and specifically the fractional reserve system that we have. So I won't go into all that and explain it, but I want to state emphatically and show how there is no need for money printing or a positive rate of inflation. I explained what falling prices are. Deflation is not falling prices, but a deflating of the money supply, a collapse of the money supply that comes from the banking system. Again, because of the fractional reserve process. So the central bank expands the money supply when it prints money, and similarly, it can be contracted. And this is what happens during recessions and depressions, where bank loans go bad and banks aren't repaid loans. So banks go bad, banks fold, all of the money they have lent out no longer exists. The checking account doesn't exist. And then because of that, other banks that are owed money from clients at the first bank go bad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so bank accounts disappear out of thin air. That's what happened when banks go bad. That's what the FDIC does. It takes new money or old money and plugs those holes. It repays the people who lost their money. Otherwise, it would just keep going and going, as it did during the Great Depression, and many banks would go bust. And so the central bank is always fighting this tendency for deflation and always printing more money so that, well, I don't want to go too deep. It prints money different times for different things. It prints money just to keep it going. It prints money during times of crises to plug holes. But what I want to focus on is there is no reason to print money. The only reason money is printed is so that the government can get more money than it gets in taxes. It has its own printing press, and it can um, create as much money as it wants to. And that's how it always has money. That's how it can always pay for a new war, even though it's in debt, etc. So it doesn't help citizens. I mean, it'll help some at the expense of others, but it doesn't help the country as a whole. It doesn't help all citizens. It does net harm. So if the government did not print money, which again benefits just the government primarily, you would just have the same quantity of money all the time and prices. Well, it depends what the currency is. If it were gold, it would be a slight increase, but it would be real money. It wouldn't be fake money with fractional bank accounts, which is the problem. And so, nonetheless, production in the economy would outpace um, the increase in the money supply, and prices would fall. So there is no reason to have to keep printing money. You don't. I was at the European Central Bank at a meeting, and right after the financial crisis, and people in the room said, these are monetary economists, they said, well, we caused this. We know we caused it, but the problem is the marketplace needs new credit. We have to provide that credit. Well, they're wrong. Those are monetary economists who know the monetary and banking side of things. They don't know the production side of things. They don't know that an economy does not need, and it's actually harmful for an economy to have new and additional credit, because the credit they're talking about, the credit they create, is fake. It's out of thin air, and it only causes problems. In a real economy without that manipulated system, the credit comes from people who choose not to consume. They save, they've produced, they have money from that, and instead of consuming it and spending it, they allow someone else to use that money for productive purposes in return for interest. And that is what real credit is. There's only so much real credit in the economy, and printing money doesn't increase the amount of real credit. It just redistributes the purchasing power of that credit, and of that credit. Um, so it doesn't create new real wealth. It's just redistributing money, and an economy does not need that. We have real credit. We don't need fake credit and a fractional reserve banking system. We can just have production with the existing credit we have. And in doing that, you would never have booms and busts. You would never have a booming economy. You would never have recessions and depressions. Absolutely guarantee you. And so that is why we don't need any of this manipulation. Things would be better left alone to the marketplace. I welcome anyone to challenge me on these points or show me how I'm wrong. I would be happy to discuss it. This is a very important topic because the money printing is what causes at least half of the problems we have in the world, in the nation. Really, it's at least half of it. It's certainly responsible for all the inflation, all the financial crises, the booms and busts, for the debate over whether wages are keeping up with productivity. And it funds all the wars and funds all kinds of bad things the government does that cause new and additional problems. So money printing is not needed, and inflation targeting is not needed. The rate of inflation should be negative from prices falling slowly through time based on increased production. Think about it. Thank you.